Hey guys, Season 8 PTR for Diablo 4 is starting soon, and I kind of just wanted to give you my feedback and opinion on how things are looking so far. I think there are good things that the Diablo 4 team is doing, and there is also bad things or missed opportunities. So I'm going to go over my kind of opinions on things. If you want to see the full patch notes for what we're going to be testing in the PTR, I'll leave a link to the patch notes in the description down below. But for now, we're going to just kind of give a high level view of what we've heard and how seasons are going to be moving forward and how they're going to handle the balancing and all that and what they got in store for Season 8. So let's start with some of the good things. They are trying to balance around pit 100, I feel like now, because they're saying no one should be really going past pit 100. I think this is good. I think they need to still set what the max pit level should be, and you should be aiming to hit that pit level, and pit 100 should not be only available to builds that would be considered S tier. So basically, the pit 100 should not be locked behind builds that are build defining or meta defining in a season. So hopefully the balance is good enough that every class will be able to do it, and all the builds should function and be able to hit that pit 100. And if they can't, hopefully with their new talks on how they're going to, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to make sure they tackle a lot of balancing problems. They are able to tackle those problems and balance the overperforming builds and also the underperforming builds to make sure everyone can enjoy the season the way they want to. Next, they also are adjusting the progression. After Season 7, the progression was way too crazy. So, with the progression changes, hopefully things will move at a slower pace, but not too slow. We're going to test that in the PTR today, so we'll be streaming that, so you'll be able to check that out with us. We'll see how the progression feels moving forward with the changes to the progression. They're reducing legendary drops early on and trying to make magic and rare items more appealing in the early game. That's fine. I don't necessarily like it or dislike it, because I feel like they're still going to be a bit they're useless in the end game still. So I think they need to do something a little more drastic to make them a little more appealing. At least the rares maybe in the end game, because right now it's almost like there is no point to them other than it's a little bit of better power on while you're progressing to level 60, but after that magic and rares just shouldn't drop anymore. So I think it's good they're making them better on that little grind that you do to 1 to 60, but I wish at least rares had a little more impact in the end game, but they don't, so it is what it is. For the balance on the classes moving forward in Season 8, since they are trying to balance towards pit 100 being that pinnacle pit level you're supposed to hit, I think it'll be okay, especially if they're going to be tackling the balance of these classes early on in the season. So hopefully any of these broken builds get caught right away, but time will tell on that. Like I said, you should check the patch notes. There's some that seem like the nerfs may be enough, the buffs may be enough, and others where it doesn't appear like it's enough for buffs, and vice versa. So I recommend reading the patch notes, like I said, to check that out for the balance of that. Next, we have the new boss powers. We got the Vampire Powers 3.0. Which powers was Vampire Powers 2.0? We are getting basically the same thing every season now. Instead of a new system of some sort, they're rehashing an existing system that worked for them. I understand that seems like a good idea and people enjoy it. That's great. But you're adding nothing new to the game. It's basically going to be like playing last season with some changes to the progression and other feels, but the powers are going to be the feels very similar to the witch powers, which I think is not great. So hopefully I'm wrong. They do, because don't get me wrong, the powers do look cool, but it still just feels like a cop out and a rehash of a season mechanic we've already had. The changes to the ladder bosses, I think overall, it's a good idea what they're doing with this. They're gonna make the mechanics a little more interesting with them. You can practice them for free. You need the keys just to open the chest at the end, which I think is fine. And I think it is all right that they've done this with the boss ladder and added some new bosses and the new Belial boss. So none of that is a problem. What I think the problem is while they made the changes to the layer bosses or ladder bosses, while this is not the problem is they added no new progression system to the game or something that they can just use moving forward to give you a little more something to do once you once you're done the level 1 to 60 grind and you're in the torment tiers. Now we still have the same things to do, no new progression system. You got your Hell Tides, which is good for gears. You got your Nightmare Dungeons, which is Obdusite. You got your ladder bosses, which is for gear. And then you have your pit, which is going to be your closest progression system you have, and that's for progressing your glyph levels on your glyphs. And we got nothing new. We're basically in a situation where the new thing again is something they adjusted in. Basically, you're running the same thing all over again. We didn't really get anything new for endgame activities and no form of new kind of progression or anything. And I think that is terrible. While I think the changes to the bosses in the endgame ladder is good, I feel like a new form of endgame progression system should have been implemented alongside with this. They have the Reliquary, which they said is going to be about the season pass, but we won't see anything about it. We'll hear more about it closer to the launch of the season 8. I don't think that's going to be really relevant or important. So I'm just already basically writing that off and saying whatever. That's not going to be endgame progression. It's just a season pass. So all in all, I think, again, Diablo 4 is going in the right way, but they're missing the point where they're not adding any new progression. They aren't adding a lot in the form of new items, even. At least in the PTR, what they've revealed is one unique, one new aspect for each class, no new mythics, and yeah. So I'd really like to hear what you think about Season 8. Do you think the Diablo 4 team is moving in the right direction? Do you think they could be doing better? I really want to know your thoughts. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And we're going to test out the PTR. We're going to see what the progression feels like. We're going to see what the new boss ladder feels like and test it out for the next week and see how it goes. So I appreciate y'all coming to hang out, and we'll have a wrap-up video for Season 8 PTR once it's over. So until next time, my friends,